Welcome to the Zane Lamprey Show. My guest today is Matthew Broussard, a fantastic comedian that is absolutely someone to watch. Someone to watch as his trajectory, I believe, will skyrocket very, very soon if it's not in the process of doing it right now. And he has had a Comedy Central special. He's been on The Tonight Show. He's really done it all, but he just came out with his first full-length stand-up special that is on YouTube, self-produced. But I really feel that when the streaming services, Netflix and Hulu and Amazon, see this, they will regret not putting it on their platforms, because I think that's where it belongs. It is a fantastic, very, very tight, very, very funny, incredible special. And I just sat down with Matthew for an hour and got into the weeds on a lot of things. It was a fantastic discussion that you should absolutely watch until the end. This is Matthew Broussard. Man, that's a great question. That's probably 12? 2000? No, I'm wrong. It's probably 2008. Matter of fact, I know it's 2008. Yeah, I got invited to go do the Tonight Show, and when I had my show, 3 Sheets on the Air, and I was right in between Jennifer Connelly. She was the first guest. I was the second guest. I wasn't doing stand up, and then and then Ziggy Marley was the musical guest. Mm-hmm. So at one point, I'm sitting there on the couch with these people, and it wasn't like a big deal for me to go up there, and they wanted me to go there early. So they said, the show, let's say it taped at 4 or something like that. They said, can you get here at 2? Because they wanted me to show them how to saber a champagne bottle. And they wanted me to be there early so they can make sure that the cameras are all set. Show us how, we don't know what happens with it. Can you just come and do it? I guess. So I went and did it at 2, and then I just sit around for an hour, and then people start arriving, and then Conan comes in, and it was an uncomfortable roller coaster of adrenaline that I was not.
Yeah, you got too jacked too early.
Well, no, I'd get jacked when he came in, and then this is exciting, and then it's like a lot of time, and then you kind of calm down, and then then Jennifer Connelly comes in, and then the show starts, and then whatever, and then I was like, and then they're like, you want a drink? I'm like, no, I don't need a drink, whatever. And that's more of the character, I don't, whatever. Mm. And then go back, all right, and 3, 2, and then and then the curtains open, and then it's just, because you performed on it, right?
I didn't stand up on it, yeah. I've never done couch. That sounds very.
Did you get? What were your nerves like?
That was I had already done my half hour, so it was a little better, but I mean, right before, I was nervous. I knew the set.
How long after you went? Did the butterflies completely go away at any point when you're on stage?
Yes.
Okay. After what? How long?
It was pretty fast, because I remember I watched a ton of sets, and I knew the room wasn't that good. I know it wasn't a kill box.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so that kind of makes things easier. I'm not gonna expect that lights out laughter. I'm just gonna pretend I'm just gonna remember I'm funnier than the crowd realizes.
Okay.
I'm gonna go about the set that way, where I'm gonna have fun, and it's gonna be way more about me having fun and that coming through on the camera than what actually I'm getting in the room.
Yeah.
And I played that way, and I remember just being like, this feels good. This isn't an A. This is like an A- B+. Which is nice. Not like Tonight Show. And I remember just leaving being like, I think it was good. I'm not sure it was good. Felt good. I certainly didn't mess anything up, and I had a good time, and that usually translates through. And then it did. It came out, and I got some response, and then my brother posted it on Reddit, and it got 1 million views, which was a really life-changing thing. That was a big.
What year was that?
2016.
So with Conan?
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. On Conan on TBS.
Yeah.
And that was that's still to this day one of the most one of the best sets I've ever done. It's really changed things for me. First thing that people actually saw.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. Conan's the coolest one to me. I've done Tonight Show twice, but Conan was
I had these butterflies that I didn't expect, and that's what kind of got me. And then they went away, but they went away after I was in the chair for about a minute. And I was I wasn't sure if I was allowed to drink. And that's kind of the thing. I was trying to be respectful. My buddy goes, I'm going to give you the best advice. When you go and do Conan, you got to just make an impact. You got to get on his desk and like dance around and like whatever. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be respectful. I respect that show. I mean, who didn't grow up watching, you know, Carson and Leno, whatever. It's like, no, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to be a good guest. I want to go back. And then when I left, I was like, you could have done something. Because again, I didn't know. I'm sitting there with those 2 bottles of booze that I had brought. One is this one. Where is it? One is this actual bottle. Wow. It has a dead snake in it. Wow. And the other one is like for women that like, it's like an aphrodisiac. It's complete BS. But like, and so it's like, I could have taken the bottle and like taken a swig, but I would, in my mind, they'd be like, "What? Time out. We can't do that on TV. Let's reset." Zane, you know, but meanwhile, run until tackled. You know what I mean? Like whatever you feel, you got to do. Like you said, when you were on Corolla, you realize you have to kind of like jump in if you want to make time in the conversation, you know. So yeah, kind of a highlight, kind of surreal, but you know, but not as a stand-up. And I guess I don't know if it's like the you're probably thinking you're a stand-up. Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. Because I was doing this show, I was always too afraid to get up on stage, and then I did this show 3 Sheets, and then I started doing it. So in reality, I've done. I started doing it out of COVID. So now I do my stand-up at breweries just because it's such a good fit. And at this point, I've done 451 breweries. Wow, since 2021. And that was the question I had for you.
And they're all in Minneapolis.
I don't do every brewery in Minneapolis. I only do 450 of them. Yes, yeah, all around the country. Sometimes we'll go back if it's amazing. Like we just did a round of the Northern California. And you have a show in Sunnyvale. By the time this comes out, I think it'll be past. But like, what venue is it in Sunnyvale?
Rooster Teeth Feathers, just truly one of my. I think it's the club I've headlined the most. It's my, I'd say one of my top 3 clubs, and then there's like the clubs that everyone says are like awesome clubs, which is like Acme, Minneapolis, Denver Comedy Works. Like those are like duh. But I would say Rooster Teeth Feathers in Sunnyvale, Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, Ann Arbor, and there's another one that I'm forgetting. But those ones are not as talked about, and it's really well run clubs. People who love comedy run these clubs, and the crowds are always so well behaved and smart. They're both very educated areas, and I really enjoy those 2 places.
I did. I hadn't. Tyler, have you heard of Rooster Teeth Feathers?
Yes.
Okay, of course he has. Side Splitters in Tampa.
Brian Thompson, not the CEO.
Yeah,
great club runner.
So great.
Really cares about it.
I did that. Were you laughing?
Not the CEO.
Oh yeah. I did that a few weeks ago, and then here's one to maybe put on your list that Tyler put on mine: the Kenosha Comedy Club. Have you done that before?
No, is that Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's in Wisconsin. It's in a what hotel is it in by?
I am not opposed to comedy clubs and hotels. I had a good run of Best Westerns. I did Best Western in Moscow, Idaho. I did Best Western in West Palm. I feel like I did that like the way you do breweries.
Yeah, you do Best Westerns. I'll do a Holiday Inn Express, but it needs to really be, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kenosha Comedy Club. It is so amazing. First of all, it's a time capsule. I don't know if it's intended to be, but it is. So it was like a hotel that they had conference rooms for in Kenosha. And I don't know that there's been much of a need for them for a while. Though this guy, what's his name, Frank?
Yeah.
Took him and his wife, right? Are they married? I think so. Took over the 3 conference rooms and then put like a little satellite bar out there. And you go in there, and you're on stage. You're in the corner, which I think is arranged wrong, but it doesn't matter. And then your lighting is a track lighting above you, and they pack the room. They haven't done anything since it was a conference, since it was a conference room or convention room, whatever, except put a few posters of comedians that probably have never been there before, which you've seen before. But I went and did it, and I was like, when you first walk in, I was like, what am I doing? What did Tyler get me into? And It was amazing. And I'm like, and they go, you come back whenever you want. And I go, I'm coming back here next summer because you guys are amazing. It's also just like, you've seen like, say like the scummy side of it, right? You've seen like bad, poorly run places, and then you've seen like sweethearts, and these guys they're just sweethearts. And they got their own newspaper.
Oh.
The Comedy Club. Yeah. I don't know what the circulation is.
It's a lot of these venues are just like a metaphor for the gig economy.
Yeah.
It's just they have 7 different jobs.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
hotel bar. I know when there's the Hotel Bar Comedy Club.
Yeah.
Brewery underneath the hotel that's also a comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The DC Comedy Club, and that's one of my absolute favorites.
But I don't even know if these guys have like a website. They just caught up. They go, it's because, I know, but before it, they go, we have our own radio show, we got our own newspaper, we promote the crap out of it. I go, what are those things?
Yeah.
So I did their radio show, which, it got us the two of them. And it was like, and I got up on stage, and this is when I was like, this is kind of what hit me as the moment. And I was like, the guy gets on stage, and Frank, to introduce the show. And he's maybe kind of being funny, but he's a sweet white-haired guy, mid-60s probably. And they do like a raffle, and it's like, and it's just probably like 12 minutes long. I'm like, all right, I don't know if you're warming them up, cooling them off, whatever. And then I get up, and I was like, Frank has been recently voted most likely to own a train set. and then he starts laughing, and everyone starts laughing. I'm like, oh, okay, we're not taking ourselves seriously. And then I had fun. So I did Bert's podcast like 2 weeks ago, the day before Thanksgiving, and your name came up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I thought that was very cool because he's talking about great comedy writers, and it was like Mark Norman, you. I don't know if there's anybody else. There was someone that was helping him write for like a roast or something like that. But it was when it came to you, it was just like he fired it off like it was one of the. Oh, of course you got Matt, and then you got whatever. But yeah, I thought that was really neat because
we share a fascination with each other because we are such different people. And I think
who's the same as Bert? Who's similar?
He's such a different creature.
Yeah.
He's so different from everything I was. Yeah, his brain works different from mine. It's fun to watch. I think there's that kind of marveling, like two animals at a zoo when the enclosure between them breaks.
Yeah, what is that? Yeah, yeah. What are the? Yeah, how does that work? Yeah,
yeah.
And so, I mean, because again, and I forgot it came up literally like the next day of like great joke. Right? Oh, you know what it was? It was the article. Was it the New York Times?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the specials to watch.
Yeah, one of the coolest things ever happened to me.
You didn't expect that to happen?
No.
That's pretty.
I knew they like date checked it, but I knew it was like a really long shot. So that it came out. What was really cool was just the 3 other people. It was
to be moved in.
Yeah. Fortune Feimster, Jamie Foxx,
right,
Dasselnick, and
I
mean they're all. Yeah, I mean, Jamie Foxx is an Oscar winner, but but Anthony's really hitting. I mean, he's always been a good comic, and he's really hitting his stride right now, and his moment is really bright. And then Fortune's a monster, so that was cool.
Yeah,
like those were all, I believe, like streamers. So like me, the little guy self-producing on YouTube, for a fraction of the price they paid.
Well, did you so you produced it? But it's not your first special.
It's my first full-length special. I did a half-hour with Comedy Central, but I've never put out
a
long before.
Got it.
A very different beast.
What was the evolution of how that happened? Because, I mean, I'm sure you could have had options. Did you go and talk to the mighty streamers right now?
My manager pitched it, so I just sent to my manager who sent it along, and I don't think we heard anything back. I was coddled by the industry for the first 8 years of my career.
In what regards?
I got all the things I wanted.
Okay.
I got Conan. I got my half hour. I got late night. Comedy Central used me repeatedly, which was great. I could go in there and do sets when I had something to share, like a 10-minute set, something like that. I could, there's people who would, consider me for that, and usually work out. Even Don't Tell, I got to Don't Tell. So I was started at a time where you worked really hard and did your stand-up, and a gatekeeper saw it and gave you an hour, and I probably had that mindset for a little too long. And I think it finally slipped in my head, the last 4 years, seeing Shane Gillis and Mark Norman. And a lot of people really just say, even those guys, Mark, who's had those shots, who's had an hour special already, say, I'll just go do it myself. And I took the note a little later than I should have, but I said, well, it's also really fun to make it yourself. There's so much more control, and I had so much more. All the other stuff I've done, I went up and did my set in front of the cameras, and they sent me back the edited product, and I had no say in this. Whereas this one, I did 2 shows and controlled everything about it. Where does it start? Where does it end? How do we cut between the shows? Which was very painful and grueling to do, but ultimately, I'm much more. I know every shot in it. Yeah, I know all the stuff that made it in and didn't.
Yeah, I did. I mean, mine's the same thing, but mine was kind of like I went out so out of COVID, I went out, I did like 150 shows, and then I'm like, I'm doing a special. Who's interested? And everyone's like, who? No, go away. And so I was effectively forced to do it. But then I was able to get it on, Amazon through a back door. But like, I can show you where the door is. But like, but for me, the reason that I did that was because that helped me getting out there, because it's not, I wasn't dipping my toe in the water. Like that's my full time, what I do. I'm on the road, like I said, 130, 140 shows a year. But like I did, came out and did the first special, did it myself. Do you know what I spent? I spent the whole year taking cash from my, my merch sales, and I bought a Bitcoin. One. Yeah, one. And at the time, I think maybe it was like, 20 grand or whatever. And now it's up. Whoa. Now 100. And it's like, which one was the better thing to do? Yeah. Well, first of all, in hindsight, if I never would have done it, then I wouldn't have known. But but anyway, so yeah, I did it. Then I did another one. But again, for me, I did it so that I go to Minnesota, or Kenosha, and say, oh, this guy's got 2 Amazon Prime comedy specials. Like, oh, let's have this guy in. And I did that for the cachet of saying it, even if it was a little bit self-built. And then the next one, but I never saw the needle move. This is kind of a little reassurance for you. So I never saw the needle move for it. Like, literally never saw the needle move. And they're out there, and, I get a little bit of money on the back end, but nothing. And so now I just, the last one I did it myself, but I'm just going to put it out on YouTube. Yeah. It's a lot more control. Also, it's a click. Go watch my special, click. I mean, even for yours, okay, here's the special, okay, click, rather than go log on to Amazon and then, whatever. It's like on my phone, I keep coming back to it and whatever, But anyway.
So the learning lesson for me was I had, in the first, pre-pandemic, I had racked up, 3 Comedy Central sets, a Conan, and then I think one Comedy Central after. So what are you looking at? Maybe 60 minutes, 50 minutes of material total, 40, 50. And I didn't have a fan base. I wasn't a recognizable person, but I had all these credits, and the credits can serve you somewhat because the clubs will book you based on your experience. And then I saw what other people were doing, and I realized there was no one really at the helm anymore of any of these shows. Checking the copyright stuff, so I just downloaded all of my clips off YouTube, just found them online, didn't even need to message the networks, right? And then 16:9 reel format, 50 seconds, and then just started capturing myself and putting them out myself, and that built me the following. And it was such an odd exercise at the time of, I've already been on TV a bit. It's not until I take this stuff and illegally put it on my own Instagram page that people are like, just discovered you this week. I'm like, off a set from 6 years ago? Like, I don't even look like that anymore. Just having control over the distribution, it's not going to be as directly monetizable, but man, you can really control how much people see what you're making. So, I mean, and that is why I was very excited to do the special myself.
Yeah. I mean, so you were building up some social currency.
Yeah.
To be able to go out there and do it.
Yeah. And that's what I have with the special now, is just for me, I'm like, people are going to watch the full length thing, and that's really, really cool that anyone would take that much time to watch me, but I'm going to cut it up into as many 1-minute clips as I can, and that's going to be a factor of 100 or 1,000 times more views.
That's true.
Yeah.
True. Did you get it on The Sirius XM?
I have a distributor who's going to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it done?
Not yet. No.
Is it Lenny? Do you know Lenny's?
Marcus?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
I know he does really cool stuff though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Unless you're committed, Lenny. You should talk to Lenny. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing. So my specials too. I had Greg Fitzsimmons direct them, and then I tried to get him to direct the first one, and he said no, because I went to Bert. And I was like, hey, I'm doing a special. And we talked about it. Like, what should I do? And he's like, have Greg direct it. He's like, and it was like, he doesn't know it, but that's what he should be doing. And I said, Greg, would you do this? And he's like, no. And then I did it myself. Directed it myself, which, whatever, learned something. And then the next year, he's like, okay, I'll come in and do it. I'm like, this is what you need to do.
What does a director do?
So it's a great question. The first year, I went out and did it myself. I had all these producers. I did get a company that I'm friends with, and then just packed the room full of people, like 15, 20 crew members and stuff like that. The next year, same thing, but I said, Greg, I want you to direct it. And we talked about what we met. He came and saw 2 of my shows. I sent him the tapes, and he gave me some feedback, just tightening some stuff up. You always, for me, remove me exposition. That was kind of the thing I was learning, and then I didn't realize to do. And just tightening things up. And so then he gets there day of, and the producers and I'm the producer. Like, I've had the TV show, my travel drinking shows and stuff, and I've done a few hundred of those episodes. So I'm comfortable, like, also behind there and kind of talking to people and whatever. And so the producers that were there and everything like that, it was a little overwhelming to Greg. And I get back, and I just trusted that because I said, like, guys, this is director. We had a circle meeting, and Greg, do your thing. He never really felt comfortable, so he didn't. There was a few things where after I saw it, there was a camera angle from the back that had like a plant in the way, and I was like, "Did you?" He was like, "I just thought that was." I go, so the meeting
shooting dirty.
Yeah. I was like, okay, next year, you control everything, and we had a meeting, and then everyone, and so this time he knew. I go, you can do whatever you want. This is your special. You look at every shot. If you don't agree with something, if you want to move somebody, all this kind of stuff. And then he's like, okay, I like that. And then that was. So he was like, he's back there. We built, a video village. So he's got every monitor. Everyone's on headsets. Mm-hmm. So he's telling people to push in. He's like, he has the set list. He knows when something's going to happen. Okay, we want this on a wide for this. And so it's not really like a technical director. The technical director, like, is kind of like doing like the line cut as they watch it, which I threw away. I got the first year anyway. Like, they're like, okay, here's your cut. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to use that. I'm taking 2 shows and putting them together and whatever. But it was just kind of like someone who had my best interest in mind, who's behind there, calling the shots. Did you have one?
I had a director, yeah.
Okay.
Not a ton of, I kind of trusted myself on the material, and that part I worked out.
Yeah, sure.
He, honestly, it was a lot of, like, just instill to this, like, you got it, buddy. Like, the corner coach in a boxing thing.
Great.
This is great. This is going to work great. Consider these things. A lot of, like, little considerations would have, like, make sure you don't have a dirty joke in the first 10 seconds, because then it'll get demonetized on YouTube.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna make a note. Okay.
It was Jason Katz and James Webb, and the thing that I had no say in was what it looked like. They did we found Littlefield Together, which is a venue which has the light board. So if you see the shots in the special, there's a big neon light board behind me.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
That's
so much.
Built in.
That's built in. You can automate the colors. You can do whatever colors you want. Yeah. And no one had done a full-length special there that we knew about. And I was like, this is different. It's a bit of a dice roll. And Jason went and checked it out. He was like, we got to do this. It's so distinct. It's so cool looking.
It's, by the way, like you said, it's yours because it's not like, it doesn't look like someone else's special.
Right.
So and it looks like the art direction. So it looks like that's something you guys had built, which is beautiful.
Well, so hopefully people don't start filming theirs after me. Well, luckily we're the first one. I'm sure Littlefield, I'm sure Littlefield has every right to capitalize on the fact that they have a very wonderful space for filming.
The unwritten rule is they just have to do a different color.
Truly.
There you go.
Which what kind of does annoy me about this special, it's just such a minor thing. If you're in the room, if you see pictures, the light board wasn't blue. It was blue and purple in a wavy kind of lava lamp way. But when we shot it, all you can see is blue, which is fine. I have blue eyes. It makes them look very pretty.
It's sure it is, Matt.
I don't mind that part of it. But it was kind of cool to do something because I didn't have strong opinion. I think when like all the things were pitched and when Jason and I saw Littlefield, we were like, oh, this is going to be neat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of, it's a bit rebellious in that, a lot of people want a dark, a deep kind of theater, dark shadows, big, moldy
things going
maroon
on.
Curtains.
Yeah, sure.
This is like, what if we went opposite? And I don't know enough about production. One thing I kind of have a hang up on is I was so not on the track to be a stand-up comedian. I had a very different. I had a technical degree. I worked in finance. I didn't do anything in theater or film until my first open mic. So a lot of people I work with in this industry have film degrees or acting degrees or been in conservatories. So I took me a long time to trust my taste. I was like, I write jokes and apparently people laugh at them. So that's what I'm good at. So I shouldn't be arrogant to think I know other things. And
that can go either way.
Yeah. It was a great lesson for me to learn. I've learned to trust myself a lot more. In 2018, I had a pilot for Comedy Central that I co-EP'd with Jason Sudeikis. I had these puzzles that I draw. It's mondaypunday.com. They're little pun wordplay puzzles. I had drawn about 500 of them. It was a thing. It's a thing I love making. It's puzzles, and we were doing it as the show. We didn't know exactly what to do. We did a Man on the Street. We did it in front of live audiences. We did it with celebrity guests, and we shot it. And it came back, and the director was like, "Okay, well, give your thoughts on the edit. I said, oh, you guys would figure it out. And I just let them do that because I didn't trust myself and kind of let it just get sent off. It didn't pick up. And, bummer if that was the difference between, it going and not. I should have put as much attention into, I put attention to every joke I have. Why wouldn't I give that much attention to every shot, every noise, every cut?
I mean, I would say you came in there as a joke expert. You guys shot it, right? You guys are the shooting experts. Okay. Here's my world. I feel like the comedy, the writing was good. You guys got that. Like, okay,
you should. I've learned that if you can trust your tastes as they extend to other things, and give it a look. And I was surprised by how many very strong opinions I have. Or, oh no, we can't do that, or we have to do it this way.
Right.
And the people. I mean, I remember my editor. Mark Hall was really wonderful to work with, where I would say, actually, I disagree with this shot. Let's do this shot, or this whole thing. This should be 3 different shots.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh wait, you're not no one's the expert on this.
Right.
There's no answers.
Right.
There's no authority to turn to.
Yeah.
You really have to learn to listen to. I love that part of the process. It gave me a lot more confidence, and maybe I can. Maybe my tastes extend beyond just my jokes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because look, it's all an extension of you, right? And I think that like with the special, I think the most important thing with the set is, does it take away from the content, right? Because it should just be something that's there. Most people shouldn't even notice it. What did you think of the set? The set? You mean like the set list? Like, no, like the lights. I don't know. Anyway, the jokes are great. You know what I mean? So that, and that's what it was. So again, look, you got affirmed by the New York Times that you did it correctly. Yeah. So well done. So when you moved out here to, I see like your bio, you moved out to LA to do finance.
No. I was working in finance, and I moved to California. I was keeping my...
Okay.
I had my job in finance in Houston, and I was going to work remotely, and that failed very quickly once I got to California.
What year did you come out here?
2013.
Okay. And you came out to chip away at the comedy scene.
I had filmed a set for Comedy Central.
Based out of Houston?
That year. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did a showcase in Austin, Texas, Cap City Comedy Club, and I had no idea. I was very new to comedy. I'm like, hope that goes well, and I get on TV, and it actually worked out that way, which I didn't realize is a thing that does not happen. I think it was Adam Devine and Adam Ray there's an article where you can read where they talked about it. They're like, yeah, and we looked at a bunch of tapes, and we had a lot of people in LA and New York we already knew, but we looked at Showcase. Like, wouldn't it be fun if we just gave one random guy his first TV credit?
And that would you?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're like, let's just look for one guy we don't know anything about, who you see him on here, we've never seen him before, and they're like, they saw my tape in Austin. There was no one there. They just sent the tape, and I'm saying this not to brag, just I had no idea that was the luckiest thing that's ever happened.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Because so you were in the Houston comedy scene? Wow. Okay. I mean, I've done a bunch of shows there, and we've had local people come on. And Houston surprised me as having some good talent.
Yes.
Houston, Dallas.
Seriously. Dallas a lot.
Yeah.
Dallas is a very underrated.
Yeah. Dallas for comedy, for local comedy, is great. But I don't know what other... So remove Chicago, New York, and LA from it. What other ones would even be on that sort of radar?
Okay. It would be, after Chicago, DC, Atlanta, I think, are top tier. DC, Denver, Atlanta are top tier, or whatever, top second tier city.
Yeah, sure, got it.
After the ones you just mentioned. Those are big.
Is San Francisco
Austin.
one?
Austin also.
Well, yeah.
Austin, even before Austin.
Even before, okay, got it.
But it was the opposite scene that I think of now. Before, because Austin we would go to, that was where Houston comics would you work out your set for a couple weeks or months, and then go do one open mic in Austin and just make sure you killed it, nothing new.
Yeah.
Just to keep impressing people.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I see, got it.
Because that was where the festivals were. They had the Cap City Club, which is was a Comedy Central club. It's where they did JFL showcases. It was a cool spot. Houston was. What I liked about Houston was I didn't appreciate at the time.
The traffic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Predictable traffic. I think Houston's a reasonable traffic town.
It's
not that. I think Austin's worse traffic.
Yeah.
What Houston had that people don't realize is we have NASA. We have the world's biggest medical center by a factor of 4.
Mm-hmm.
We have a hub of petroleum. So an inordinate amount of chemical and mechanical engineers. And also energy trading.
Is this equating to money?
Education.
Oh, God. Oh.
There is a lot of money. There is a lot of money in Houston.
Yeah.
Big, healthy middle class and upper class, but very educated people.
Yeah. That's interesting. I
was spoiled by that.
So is that affecting you on stage or off stage?
On stage, I got to indulge in jokes that I don't think I would have had the luxury of doing other places. I didn't realize that you could do doing like 4 minutes on grammar and not realizing that wouldn't play. I remember I did a casino gig, and I was like, why didn't any of my jokes work?
They didn't stop smoking the entire show. Okay, so Hyperbolic, how long have you been writing that?
Oh, like an embarrassingly long time. There's 10-year-old jokes. No, there's a joke from my first year of comedy.
Which one is it?
Being Cajun and Jewish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Okay, well, that makes sense.
Fair. Yeah, it's not like that joke will die at any point.
No, you're not.
I'm one of 3 people who can tell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
Do you tell it differently? Yeah, you went and looked at it.
Yeah, a lot better time.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
It was mostly since my half hour. I would say nothing from my half hour is on it. So obviously I've shed that set from 2016, but there's some stuff I did on my album in 2016 that I wanted a video version, and it's a lot funnier now. Mm-hmm. So I guess 8 years would be it's 8 years of stuff.
It's very okay. So it was great, and Tyler was freaking out. So Tyler is a comic as well, and he was just like freaking out. He was texting me last night. Have you watched it? Am I embarrassing you, buddy?
No, I love it.
Okay. And I was also watching it, and I was just like, I was kind of enthralled with it because it's just, and this is meant to be the right word. So like, it's very technical in that it's like there's no wasted breath.
I wanted it to be, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going for it. Okay. I wanted like,
okay.
My goal was like, what if it was like, the way you go for like a 5-minute late night set, just boom, 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 boom. I kind of wanted to see if I could do that for how long I could do that for.
And you did it. So it's funny for the duration. How long is it?
48 minutes.
Yeah, it's for about 47 of those.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. It is like, I would like to say this is an objective statement. It's just, it's tight and good. Yes, you're right. you could probably take out 5-minute chunks, wherever you wanted.
Yeah, that was also the thing of like, I'm also going to clip this up into a lot of, minute long stuff. So like, my goal was like, I want to be able to just pluck a minute out and have that be also useful. DaBaby, I heard a great thing. The rapper DaBaby?
Mm-hmm.
He's apparently, a thing he likes to do is he starts, the second the song starts, he starts rapping. So if you listen to one of his songs, you turn it out, it's just immediately him rapping because he knows people don't have time to waste and you want to just get there fast. So I also wanted to like cut the intro and just, people don't know who I am. I'm not going to, I have no laurels to rest on. So I wanted to just, it was a very exciting thing to do. And I wanted to just leave it all out there. My fiance was like, just don't hold back. Pretend you quit comedy after this. And this is your like farewell to it. And then see what you can build out of it. We're in the state of it now where it's like, boy, it's going to take a while to have a new hour that's, I
suppose that's
but
that's you ran into the same problem that John Bon Jovi has, right? So John Bon Jovi was doing all this like songs where he's just hitting these super high notes, and he's like, I can't do that anymore. That was it. I left it all on stage, and he has to come up with something in a new octave. But like, so yeah, I mean, when's the next special?
Oh God, I don't know, man. Ray Romano's done 2 specials. Dave Attell's done 2 specials.
Mm-hmm.
Chappelle coasted on 2 or 3 for decades.
Well, then he did 3.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I want to.
Yeah.
I need to. Yeah, I don't know.
This is
when it's ready. I'd rather not like make it about industry and supply and demand and economics. I'd rather just like, if I have something to show you, I'm happy to share it with you.
Yeah. I mean, you can also...
And I'm trying to not repeat that material on the road because I would like to consider people who have watched it. So I will really try to, if you come see me, I got stuff.
But that's different than the past 8 years have been necessarily, because if you've been honing and tweaking and just tightening and this stuff, now you want to go out with all new material. You're probably going to find yourself within another hour in a shorter period of time.
It does feel faster. I do find the jokes building out a little quicker. And there's also like, there's 20 minutes of stuff I was doing when I was doing the special where I'm like, it's good. It's just not, I don't want it to be part of this. And I can roll that 20 minutes over and keep building that out. But
was that cut out from the actual taping? You didn't?
No.
You didn't record it. Okay, got it.
No. Well, there's some stuff I did with the crowd. I think at the crowd, I was like, anything you guys want to, and someone asked for a specific joke, like a really old one. I was like, no, but I have a new one. Yeah. Someone asked for like my old calculus joke. I'm like, actually, I have a new calculus joke, and I tell it, and that was fun.
That's good.
Yeah.
How big was that crowd?
150 and then 250, I think, were for the 2 respective shows.
Got it. That's good. That's a good. I think about when you're shooting a special, the resonance that creates.
Mm-hmm.
That number of, it's like that.
Yeah.
The whole thing, like the permission to laugh when people can hear other people laughing, it all of a sudden it'll build and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Compounding, yeah.
What's that?
Compounding growth.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's also just like the resonance, but it's also good being in the theater too. Mine were in breweries, and I had to sort of
so fine. Yeah, that looks good. But I wanted a low ceiling too. I also like a low ceiling.
When I get to a brewery and it has a low ceiling and the room is packed, I'm just like, yes, because sometimes I've been in. I mean, I don't even know the size of it. It was like, okay, here's your room. And I had like 200 people, but the room was like, I can't even explain. It was like 100 feet wide and 800 feet, whatever it was.
By nature, they need to be quite spacious.
Yeah.
Silos or whatever.
That's right. Exactly. And I was like, oh, it's just going to go, the laughter like, because you won't even hear that the person in the back was laughing because there's nothing to bounce it and bring it back. But I like when those things happen. Like I think the last show I just did was in Oakdale, California, which you probably have never heard of. They had the distinction of being the cowboy capital of the world in Oakdale, California, just outside Modesto, up north, like south of Sacramento. And so that's, of course, the first thing I ask is like, just by show of hands, who here's a cowboy? And he says one arm. I go, yeah, all right. And then I was like, I don't know who's. I forget what I asked them. Who's something else? Like who does this? And 2 people raise their hand. I'm like, all right, then that's your new name. It's stupid. Cut that out. Keep it. I keep that in. Keep it in.
I'm the director.
You got it. So, but the catch is that it was an outdoor show, and it was very, very cold. It was like it was like 51 feels like 43. And I was up there, I could see my breath. And it was like, but I'm like, I don't care. I want the discomfort. I've done so many different kinds of rooms. I want to be challenged. I want to be felt uncomfortable. So when I get to Side Splitters in Tampa, it's just like, this is like jogging, you know?
Yeah. So you started comedy stand-up when?
What time is it? So like, I mean, so I did a show called Three Sheets. So I did 4 seasons of that. Then I did a show
not dissimilar from like kind of what Bert does, or like a Bourdain.
That's how
be funny with people.
That's how Bert and I became friends. I've gone out there the same thing. Bert and I were the same at that point. Now he has eclipsed my tax bracket, but and most people's. And so then I did a show. That show went off the air, and no other network was picking it up. And it was on this obscure network called Mojo HD. And so I started doing these like pub crawl. I did a Save Three Sheets rally. I did one in LA. Probably about 600 people showed up. We marched through Beverly Hills and Century City with signs, Save Three Sheets and whatever. Just stupid, just to make noise. Next day I get on a plane. I go to New York and I go and do this, the same thing there. And there, we don't know. It could have been 800-900 people. We're marching through the streets of Manhattan. And then we plotted out on a map where we would walk by every network and then, pub, so it was pubs and networks, like, so we just kind of like covered and made a full circle. And we ended up at this Irish pub at the end that, this 4-story Irish bar. I don't remember the name of it. And we filled it. And I'm at the top and my buddy comes running up. He goes, dude, Mark Cuban's downstairs. He wants to buy the show. I'm like, Mark Cuban's not downstairs, dummy. But I will go downstairs to show you that it's not Mark Cuban. And I go through all the people all the way down to the thing. I was just like, oh, hi, Mark. And it was Mark. And he's like, I go, why don't you buy the show? And he's like, they're trying to bundle it. They're going out of business, the network, and they're trying to bundle it with 4 other shows. And he's like, I don't want that. I want 3 sheets. It's like, all right. He's like, when the rights are gone, when your contract expires, call me up. The day expired, I call him up and said, let's do Drinking Made Easy. And I go, but I know that Mark loves like the marketing side of it. So I go, here's what we're going to do. Do a domestic version of 3 sheets. So just go around the country. I'll do a tour bus. And I'll do shoot the TV show during the day, and I'll do the stand-up at night. And so we did 51 stand-up shows and shot 24 episodes. And
what year?
2009.
Oh,
or 2010. And so this is my long answer to your question. And so that's when I was like, I'm doing stand-up. And I did it, but the catch was I did it after shooting at 3 bars during the day. I was usually drunk. And it was a great buffer for me having to actually make a connection to what it was I was doing up there. I was having fun. People were having fun. I felt like it. But I my only regret, I don't have regrets, but like, is that I should have paid more respect to like the craft of what I was doing, And then when I came back, then the next year, I'm like, it was too much work. Let me focus on the TV show, make that right. And so comedy went away. And then right before COVID, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm dropping everything. I'm going to go do stand up
and giving it like the proper
everything.
Okay.
It's everything.
Okay.
There's no people want to talk to me about a TV show. Talk to me.
Pretty enthralling, huh? Stand up is like this really addicting craft.
It's
like golf for you. It's like you can perfect.
That's a really good analogy.
You could spend, we've already done it, but you could spend inordinate amounts of time just being like, how do you like to hold the mic? Yeah, what do you do with your other hand?
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you like to do with?
But these are kind of conversations you have with yourself
all the time.
So when you say golf, it's like you golfing by yourself. You can go and golf 18 holes and have a great time, and then you try to improve it the next day. What small changes can I make?
So what fascinates me is like I started with stand-up. That was my entry level, and you're already a provably entertaining and funny guy. How did you? Where did you really? It's really dumb. Sorry, I'm sure you've answered a bunch of times. So you're like, where were you like, wow, I'm funny enough to make a TV show. Let's go do this. How did that like come to be?
I think I was too afraid of it. I was too afraid of comedy. I'd lived out in L.A. I moved out here in '96, and the store, the factory, like all those places were so intimidating to me.
Yes, they like.
I don't even know. Yeah, of course, and I didn't even know how to. How does this start? What do you do? And I was just so.
For the comedy, there's an answer to that. For what you're doing, there's no you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but you know, the thing that I was always up against is, like, I had a show 3 sheets. Travel Channel wanted it, other places wanted it. It could have gone to the next level. I reached a certain amount of success just being on channel like 912. Like, I was like up there, but people were finding it and talking about it, and it was like,
that's so cool.
I was the underdog, so everyone was rooting for me. When they said, "Oh, Food Network's like, we want a show like that. We'll just make it same thing what you're doing, but let's do it for food." Great. So my whole thing was walk into a scene. I wanted to know little pieces. I don't want to know the whole thing. I'm not Bourdain. I don't want to walk in and profess that I know everything that's happening. I want to learn at the same pace that the viewers learn. So I ask the questions that people are thinking. That was the philosophy of it. And I go on, I do the Food Network, and I just got like skewered, pun intended. By the way, that was an actual intended pun. And to the point where the time slot that I was taking was replacing Bourdain. And so he was like laid into me to the point where it's kind of a long story. And I'm working. I have a book that I'm working on right now, and it's there's a whole chapter about that whole it's a short chapter about my whole relationship with him, with Bourdain, because it was very contentious. At one point, I wanted to fight him, like physically wanted to fight him. And when I saw this thing come out where he's like, this new show is unwatchable, but it's about a guy who goes around making fun of people. He knows nothing about food. He called bouillabaisse a very fishy stew. And I was
critic from Ratatouille. Like, he's just
it's just like
just punching down.
Yeah, that's exactly.
The man doesn't know how to use a salad fork.
Right. It's exactly right. It's exactly right. And we happened to both be on the big island of Hawaii shooting at the same time when that happened.
Huh?
And I was like, and my crew knew where he was because they knew people on his crew, and they wouldn't tell me because I wanted to go and confront him. And it was like, how dare you? Like, dude, I love you. You know, I respect you, and you should know when you watch a scene the way that it was edited. I was shooting in that scene for 6 hours. I know the scene he was talking about. It's these two guys, this couple, and they owned a chateau in Marseille, and they do a cooking school. And we got there 1 in the afternoon, and we're cooking whatever, and we're drinking, and we're in love. Everyone is just having such a great time, and the crew's drinking, and we're eating and learning about each other. And we left there at 1 a.m. So we had a few of these inside jokes. But if you didn't know that I had that level of familiarity with them, you might think I was being a little bit disrespectful. And maybe that was the job of the editors, producers to notice that. But by the way, he's the only person that had that observation. So anyway, that whole thing went and disappeared. And so when I said with Mark Cuban, I don't know if I'm tying everything up, to go back there and do the stand-up thing, that's when I kind of got like, I did appreciate it. But I thought like, no, you're a host, you're not a comedian. And then when it came, but I guess the point that I was going to say is when I did that Food Network show, it was decently received. There was both sides of the table, but the guy who had ordered it was a fan of 3 Sheets who ran the network. He left. A new guy came in before it aired. He didn't get it, and so he's like, "We're not picking up for another season." And so many times I've had shows where I was like, "Oh my God, we're hitting it all, firing off cylinders." Even the show with Mark Cuban, Mark's like, "Hey, you're doing great. Thanks, man. I sold the network, so find something else to do." And I'm like, after 3 seasons, and it's like when you don't have that control, that's the thing with being a comedian, good and bad. You have all of the control. Yeah. You don't want to go work this week. You don't have to go work this week. Yeah. You don't want to go work next year. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. But something you said earlier about like putting in the hard work, that resonated with me. I didn't say I didn't interrupt you when you were saying it, but like, there's hardworking comics, and then there's other, and I don't know that other ever rises to the top. And you have to take those punches and keep learning, building. And then your perseverance, the reason you're still around is because you're talented, but it's also because you put the time.
It's insane amount of work. Talent's a small factor. I mean, the talk is cheap, and we're trying to sell it. Of course, you're going to have a product that is absurdly refined while also looking very casual and easy. Right. So, like, it is not insane to me that you would put that much work of, like, I'm going to talk for 50 minutes and expect you to listen, I better have something very
in one spot.
In one spot.
Standing there.
No lasers, no lights.
That's right.
No kitten.
No slideshow.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So it's so of like, I think if you're a comic, you owe it to the viewer and you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the craft to really give it a thorough push. And Tim Dillon said something that haunts me to this day. This was 2017 or something. I just moved to New York and felt very burned by LA. I never really felt like I fit in here in the comedy community. Always felt like an outsider in LA. And then I got to New York and I felt kind of more my people, the people who were very obsessive over the minutia of the writing and the performance. And Tim Dillon goes to LA and he comes back and I see him and I go, dude, LA, dude, come on, how bad were those comics there? Just, expecting him to talk trash.
Yeah.
He goes, they've got a vision. And I go, what do you mean? He says, the comics in LA, they see big things for themselves. They're able to see beyond just stand-up, and they want to build a brand and a show and a network and all these things. And that's a really great attitude to have kind of no limit to what you can be, versus you talk to a comic in New York City, they're like, yeah, I'm really, really working on moving up from check spots to guest spots at New York City. That myopia, that next getting focused on the next task, you can lose 40 years of your life doing just stand up. That's the scary part. It's such a suck of energy, and you can put so much into it forever that I think it's called bike shedding. It's where you kind of focus so much on the little details of it that you kind of lose sight of the whole mission. That's the one in New York, you can become such a comic that you forget that you should have other artistic pursuits and be more than, as a human, you need to be more than just one skill.
Yeah. But so I'm just wrapping my head around what gaslighting means, and now you're throwing bike shedding at me, and
it's from a book I read. It's when like a planning committee is building a nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we should have a bike shed. Yeah, what should we think? Blue for the bike shed? You went green. I don't know. What kind of roof should it have? And then they spend so much time on the bike shed that the power plant never gets made.
Got it. Similar to like a red herring.
Yeah.
But you got it. Okay.
In terms of getting lost in the details. Yeah.
Let's see if I remember. Later on, Tyler's going to explain it to me. So
it's not a casual term. I shouldn't have used it so casually. I might have made it up. I might be gaslighting you with bike shedding.
Oh, so good. So good. All right. So I just want to know, and I try to look this up, but I loved the show Mrs. Maisel. And you were on that. I tried to find a clip of it. I watched the whole thing. I loved the series. What part was
Season 4, episode 1, there's a diner shot. The camera swings around the diner. Yeah. And another comic are talking about a joke not working in another city.
Okay.
So I think 5 lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
And
did you
cool. It was so cool to be in that diner.
Yeah.
We all had watches. They walk around with a pallet of watches. They go, which watch was your character wear? And all the watches are set to the same time. In case you see someone's watch,
wow.
It says whatever 2:30, even though it's actually 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And diner's a real diner in the West Side.
Yeah.
You can go to that diner you see in the show. It's much smaller than you think, with the turquoise and red. There's a waitress walks out with real food and goes, we're going to serve you real food. What would your character order for breakfast?
Wow.
All for 3 lines.
Wow.
It was neat.
I mean, that was, did you watch the whole show?
Yeah, it's the first show I've been on that I'm a fan of. I don't think I got to the end, yes, but I watched the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just
so good.
It was just so good. It was just on so many levels. It was so amazing, and just like it's also kind of like the audacity of them to think that this show would work. You know what I mean? It's just like the idea of it. You're like, okay,
women already out.
I'm out. What is it?
Trying to be funny.
I can. And also taking someone who I don't think she was not a comic, right? Before?
Oh, Broussard?
Yeah.
No, she's not even Jewish. It's crazy how good she is at that role. That was my favorite part of it, was we show up at 6 a.m. at this diner. We're all just wiping sleep out of our eyes, and we sit down in the diner in chairs with our scripts in front of us. And it was Amy Palladino was the new director. She goes, all right, let's just talk through this scene. And we read our lines, and it cuts to it's Brosnahan and Bornstein,
Uh-huh.
having 2-3 page dialogue.
Yeah.
Bornstein's a fantastic actor, reading off the page, and Brosnan's already off book. All 3 pages, knows every word of it. And at one point, she goes, and when I'm up there on that the stage or that stage, and they correct her, and that's the only word she got incorrect, and like a riveting, like tear-jerking performance. And I'm still wearing like a Patagonia.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad there was that experience. I don't know if they're always kind of like that, but it also sounds very like sounds like a pretty respectful like set too.
It was cool. At one point, I tried to not bother Rachel because I'm sure every extra and actor. We're all sitting around talking, and me and another character were stand-ups. I was saying something about stand-up, and she was like, "So what's that like performing in front of that size crowd?" She was very interested in learning as much as she could about stand-up. That she was asking me questions.
Yeah.
It was she was
But if she decided to go into stand-up right now, we'd all be like, okay, I'll watch your special.
I go, yeah. If she wants to tour, I would buy tickets.
So great. That was great. All right. I have one last question.
You're a funny animal.
Okay.
Did they print you wrong? No. Tail? Hammer.
So that is don't feel bad for what I'm about to say. So my wife has a special needs animal rescue.
Uh-huh.
So everyone in here is a little funny. So that's Potato. Yeah, he doesn't have a tail. He doesn't have correct ears. He has.
I don't feel bad about making it. It's not punching down if they don't understand.
It's that is so true. I have a joke right now that I like that it always divides the room, but in a way that I appreciate that it does. And I talk about the fact that my wife has more followers than me. I've had 6 television shows, and I've already established the fact that, especially as I go, I've had 6 television shows. She has 7 retarded cats. And some people die, and some people are like, man, guys, they're cats. You can call them retarded. They don't care.
Yeah.
And some lady
name them.
You can name them. You can name them. You can call them whatever you want. They don't care if you treat them properly. And some lady DM me. And she said, I think she's also emailed my wife, I think he's funny enough that he doesn't need to make fun of cats. First of all, if you kind of pay attention, that's not really what I'm doing, right? And by the way, a joke's a joke, but it's just so funny how they're cats.
Yeah.
You can call them whatever you want. And then some guy's like, yeah, I hate cats. I go, no, you're not hearing me either, brother. And he's this is like in Kentucky, this guy in the front row. He's like, yeah, I hate cats. I go, no, we're gonna have a little talk right now. Because that's not what I just said,
I would die on that hill. If I was in your position. There's a video online. This is the lamest thing to do, but to explain a gift. There's a video online. It's one of my absolute favorite videos in the history of the internet. It's this dude on a basketball court, and there's a dog, a jolly dog, and he's crossing over on it. He's dribbling the dog's trying to catch the ball the dog's in a great mood, and he crosses over on the dog. The dog kind of falls a little bit, and then gallops to catch up with him, and is having a good time. And the whole time someone's narrating, expose him, ah! And he crosses over and the dog slips. Yeah. They act like the dog just got
yeah.
But the funny part
is the dog
doesn't care. They're losing for the dog.
That's right.
The dog is just I don't know the rules of your game.
Yeah.
And the funny part is to just clown on an animal that could not be concerned with our system.
Yes. It's ego. So yeah,
it's projection of humanity where
sure,
it does not place.
It's exactly right. I'm not human. I don't have an ego. I literally don't care.
Yeah.
You just called me a piece of garbage and gave me a treat.
Yeah.
That was a great treat. You know?
Yes. Maybe if a cat was that human can barely lick his own butthole. We're it doesn't really hurt my
now I'm laying into the cat. Because listen, yeah. All right, so here's my last this is I think I need some advice. So you talk your fiance, is she still your fiance?
Yes.
Okay. So you talk about your fiance. When did you shoot the special? How long ago?
10 months. February.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, it's the same as mine. I shot mine in April. That'll come out in January. Why'd you hold on to it for so long?
I just took a long time editing.
Okay, got it. Good. Perfect. Had to be perfect. And so you have a bunch of bits about your fiance. Did you run those by her first, or did you try them on stage and then you worked them out? What was the process there? Because is she still doing comedy?
Yes.
Okay.
the thing is, and I hope she doesn't listen to this, is
she does.
Nobody does. If there's a joke, you kind of have to work out a joke a little bit, to make sure it's a decent joke worth doing, and then ask permission, like you haven't.
Yes,
and then when you try it, I've only done this maybe once. Mostly, I just get her permission.
Okay.
But like, it's a weird thing because if you get permission for a joke that you can't figure out, then it's like, well, you squandered that.
Mm-hmm.
So being very careful. And then there's a long one about
I love how cautious you're being, even talking to me, right?
Just scared through there. Just scared. The joke about the vibrator was when I was, I'd asked like, hey, can we talk about this on stage? It's very interesting. She was like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. And then a couple of years passed, and she was like, you know what? It's a good thing to talk about in terms of it might help other couples and their discomfort with this. So go for it. And the second she started like letting me talk about it, it became a 7-minute joke in like 6 months, which is a long joke.
Yeah.
So she's like, I was like, I had a lot to say about it. So that you opened this gate. I mean, if it had been just like she lets me talk about it and it's like a 1-minute joke with 3 punchlines. I'm like, no, this is the piece. This is the crescendo.
It's the name of my special.
Yeah. It could have been.
Yeah. I had
there's still one joke right now she won't let me do, and she says if I make $1 million in a year, I can do that joke.
Okay.
If you're making $1 million and I don't have to work, you can talk about that.
Yeah,
support me.
Mine is so this year the request was because my last special was called Tender Looks, which was when my wife had back surgery, and this woman came in. I don't remember. She was the occupational therapist, and she comes in and she says, and by the way, this is one of those jokes. I'm sure. I haven't even listened to it since I recorded it, but like I know I could have taken half of it out. But the occupational therapist comes in and she goes, I want to talk to you guys about like, getting back into it, love making. And my wife and I looked at each other like, okay, where's this going? This is advice we didn't ask for. She's like, sometimes touching can be replaced with just a tender look. And I was like, literally going like, look at my joke book real quick. I got to write down. This is actually happening. And so my wife's request this year, which can she hear me? Is she around? Okay. Is like that I just don't talk about her.
Really?
It was her request. I said request denied. Because the first year I went out, I was doing all this like stories about my shows, like what happened when I went and drank in Africa and all these great stories, but like. And I don't want to carry those through. I don't want to be living in band camp or, my football days forever. Like I told those stories, I move on. Now, what's my content about? It's about the person I spend my time with, which is my wife. So it's life on the road and my wife and some stuff from before. But I had one. So like, that she doesn't know. She doesn't know there's a bunch I'm telling you that are doing really, really well. But one is about like when she, we're having sex and I look down and she's like, not really into it. And she's literally petting the cat, and it was like it's and again I told her I was dying laughing, and I finished. But then I wrote down. Then I literally wrote it down, and I was like I'm like that's so good. And then I did it, so she didn't know I was doing it, and I had a great night with it, and I put it out, and I think it's at like 3 million views. Like it's like. I had another bit that I thought was just as good that does almost better, but it's just not as relatable. Mm-hmm. Apparently, it's like people just like, relate to that joke and they're sharing it. And so she was pretty like mortified that I was talking about it because it's, we're talking, it's a lot. And there's also some stuff in there that's not, it's an exaggeration, but like,
of course.
But then now she's giving me notes for it. She's like, well, why don't you say instead of this? I'm like, oh, okay. Now you're kind of on board. You see the value of that joke. I think your discussion is like, well, what if this joke is the joke that makes me the $1 million? Can we roll the dice on that? If it's so good. So we're in the same position with that. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's tiptoeing because I got to go out there and tell it to see if I'm even going to continue to tell it, to develop it.
Yeah, kind of better to beg forgiveness and ask permission.
That's right.
She has jokes about me, and sometimes I'm like, that doesn't portray me. That's a slightly inaccurate portrayal, and I don't like it. But I try to like be very, let it be what it's going to be. Like let the joke evolve in an authentic way. Yeah. And one of the jokes, I'm like, don't say I said that. That's not what I said, and it makes me sound bad. And then she switched it to like, she's had her mom saying it to her. I was like, switch it back to me. It's better.
It's funnier.
It's more funny if I'm like. Yeah, whatever. I think people understand, and I'd rather you have a good villain in this joke, and it's funnier if it's your boyfriend who's antagonizing you.
Yeah,
it's better.
And by the way, she takes pictures of me and posts it on her social media, on her stories, that I'm always not on board with, but I always think it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just retaliation.
We do enough comedy together. It would be very hard for me to hide the development of Bert.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. When did you develop that?
Yeah, on my own.
Open arm Bert in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, it was great to meet you.
Thank you so much.
The reason I do this podcast, honestly, is to just be able to have these conversations, because when would I just reach out to me like, hey, when you're in LA, come to my house? It'd be really weird if I weren't recording. We're not recording. So yeah, I look, I thought your special was great. It's like you've really become into the sort of zeitgeist of like my conversations recently. Again, Bert brought you up, Tyler brought you up, someone else brought you up, and I was like, okay. And then when
I paid all of them,
you did, yeah, well, you did. And so look, they say don't meet your heroes, and they would be found wrong today. I'll leave it on that. So good man.
Well, my heroes are these special needs cats, and I'm gonna go pet the crap.
Yeah, go.